Corporate Underwriting on KPBS offers a unique opportunity for brands to demonstrate their corporate social responsibility as public media brings light to important causes. Your investment can showcase your brand's values and commitment to the public good. Email corporate support at kpbs.org.
Welcome in San Diego, it's Jade Hindman. On today's show, this year's Writer Symposium by the Sea brings esteemed author Jamaica Kincaid to town. We'll talk with her. This is KPBS Midday Edition, connecting our communities through conversation. For more than 3 decades, the annual Writers' Symposium by the Sea has brought esteemed authors to San Diego's shores to reflect on their work and literary legacies. It's been held at Point Loma Nazarene University, and it will be February 25th through the 27th. One of the authors appearing at this year's festival is Jamaica Kincaid. For more than 50 years, Kincaid's writing has often defied categorization and comparison. Through books like Annie John and the autobiography of my mother, her work weaves from fiction to nonfiction, often actually intersecting the two. She is also known for her essays as a longtime writer with the New Yorker magazine. Her most recent book is called Putting Myself Together. Jamaica Kincaid, welcome to Midday Edition.
Thank you. You make me sound really interesting. I'll have to tell my children.
You are interesting, and it's an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
So first, I'm going to ask you. You were born and spent much of your childhood in Antigua. In a recent profile in the New York Times, you revealed your theory that you are who you are at the age of 7. So when you reach 7, you said that is your life, and you just repeat that until you are 100, and you say you find that thought actually comforting. Tell me about why.
Oh, why do I find it comforting? Oh, because you have been 7 for so long. It's nice to know that it's not that you do the very same things, but you do variations on them. And then suddenly you realize, oh, but that's just what I did when I was 7. For instance, I enjoy completely being alone. I'm not lonely at all. I was an only child until I was 9 years of age. And I loved, yes, I loved it, especially because my mother made me not play with other children. She was from Dominica, and she considered Antiguans' behavior and culture rather inferior. So she never would let me have friends, which is something I wrote about in a book called Annie John. And the friend I had was the Red Girl, an Antiguan girl. So I think that now I am almost 77 years of age, how much I enjoy being alone. And I'm always mystified by people looking for companions or marriage or whatever, but it is true that also I have been lucky enough to have some of the best friends of anywhere. Dearest of all, my friend Ian Fraser and my friend Candace Ware, whom you wouldn't know, but you should know Ian Fraser. He's a most extraordinary writer, and we've been friends for these many years, and not just friends in which, you say hello.
Yeah.
We speak to each other every week after he gets out of church, where
Yeah.
he has on Sundays, where he has wiped his sinful soul clean. And then I begin to encourage him to put small smudges on on.
Well, Jamaica, I have to ask. I have to go back and ask. I mean, why is 7 that magic number?
Um, I don't. What is seven? Of course, there are all sorts of in religions in which numbers are three for Catholics, I think 13 for, of course, for bar mitzvahs, but seven I think is important, and then 10 is important. But for me, it was seven. It was at seven I discovered John Milton, or was forced to discover John Milton. It was at seven I had my first realization into the complications of being um, singled out as special. At seven, much, I was regarded, I should say, as being much more smart than the other kids who were not only seven, but much older. And my teachers used to parade me around to the various classes to show me off as a brilliant person.
Hmm.
And I became, uh, as you can imagine, very proud of myself and very high-handed. And of course, then my schoolmates proceeded to waylay me after school and put me in a tub of which was the outdoor toilet. And so I had to walk home with dripping in shit. And I consider that really an interesting moment that should have an event that is really good for pride,
Right. I'm so
excessive
sorry that that
pride.
happened to you. That is awful.
Oh, I'm not. I'm rather glad.
Okay, well,
Gotten,
it's a
gotten quite a lot out of it as a writer.
well, I mean, how did you come to discover a passion for writing? Was it during those young formative years?
Um, oh, I wouldn't say a passion because I didn't know people. I actually didn't know that people still wrote important things, poems, literature, after Kipling. Kipling was my last encounter in the British Empire um, of a serious writer, and really, Kipling is a despicable person. So imagine that. But my mother taught me to read when I was very young, and by the time I was 3.5, I could read. There was one interesting thing. She didn't tell me there was an alphabet. And so when she finally sent me to school when I was 3.5, and but you could only go to school when you were 5, and so she told me to, if anybody asked, to say I was 5. And so I went to school and I could read everything. But then there was this thing called the alphabet, and even worse were vowels.
Mm-hmm.
Vowels were a problem. And so I never um, came to writing and the English language as written in a way that ordinarily you would. And I now suspect that that whole experience has been a tremendous influence on the way I
Mm-hmm.
write.
Well, I want to
Um,
ask you this, because your relationship with your mother, your connection to her, disconnection from her perhaps as well, shows up in much of your work. What is it about your mother that has continued to command your attention in your writing?
what is it? Uh, well, in Greek mythology, there are um, the Titans and my mother. I've often described her as Cronus, the person who gives birth to the children in the morning and eat them at night. And I don't mind that. I don't find that hateful at all. I think that's really kind of interesting. Of course, if you were the person being eaten at night, it might not be so inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother has always seemed, even as a child, I mean, I had no idea she would become so prominent in this thing I do called writing. But she was always tremendously mythic in my mind. First of all, as I said, she came from Dominica. And even in these small islands, the people who are dominated by colonial powers all have their own peculiarities. And not only that, they take on the rivalries of their colonial conquests.
Hmm.
So the people who speak French or patois will feel very superior to the people who speak English because,
Yeah.
the are
Well,
superior.
well, in Jamaica, that's interesting because you write a lot about colonialism and also about gardening. So I'm wondering how those two things intersect.
They know they don't intersect. They support each other. Colonialism, call it to be colonized. It's now we're just thrown around every which way. But the act of colonialization is parasitic, and uh, well, how I came to equate this with gardening, I started to um, the King James version of the Bible was very important in my education. We actually read it in school, not to make us Christians. That was already a foregone conclusion, and not the Christians that live in Mississippi and those kinds of nonsense places. Um, and I don't mean the black people who live there, but
I hear you,
Um,
Jamaica.
but the kind of I could see colonialism, for instance, from reading Genesis, that the world was made and then it was colonized, and then was the naming of the things in it
Hmm.
that gave Adam the power to do. And it's not clear to me that those names he gave them were really their names that they themselves knew. So I started
Yeah.
uh, with
Well,
that. And of course, again, to go back to seven, that was the sort of thing I knew at seven. At
hmm.
seven, by the way, I'm not at all opposed to the Ten Commandments being nailed at a school door. I just wish the people nailing it would read it.
Well, that is not unreasonable at all. That is good. Listen, one place that colonization was really on the big stage was at the Super Bowl on Sunday. The Puerto Rican artist Bad
Oh,
Bunny brought
oh,
attention to the colonial history of his home island during his
oh.
performance. What did you think of it? What did you take from that?
I wept during it without knowing I was weeping. I found it brilliant in going over it in my mind. The many things he said, the many things he did. I thought it almost had he and in his white suit, and it almost had for me a kind of propheticness about him. He seemed like a prophet waving through and giving people a vision of what had happened without them knowing it. And those of us who know it, who have lived it, we might have forgotten because we've all moved to Florida and are voting for horrible people. And suddenly we were reminded it just was like something Babylonian, or something from Jeremiah when the Israelites were doing some sort of nonsense eating
Hmm.
cakes made in the shape of Baal. And then God comes and just says, no, I don't mean to be terribly religious, but and I'm not at all, but I do find these um,
Yeah.
old text inspiring. And so to go back to the Super Bowl, I thought it was beautiful, and the details of the history in it um, was fascinating. And I know he's a brilliant man, but I wondered about I not wondered. I admire the scholarship, the pains he took, and this whole you can't separate it, and one shouldn't, in my mind anyway, separate what the brutal football. Who thought football would do this? Um, would educate Americans about history, starting with Beyonce and Kendrick
Hmm.
Lamar, and now this. It was just
Yeah. I,
oh my
Oh,
goodness.
art is certainly a vehicle for lessons and all sorts of things. I
It
have to.
always
It
has.
always is. It really is. But I have to
It
leave our
really.
conversation here. We could go on for hours and hours. It's so interesting. I have been speaking with author Jamaica Kincaid, who will be appearing at this year's Writer Symposium by the Sea on Thursday, February 26th. You can find a link to tickets on our website, kpbs.org. Jamaica, thank you so much. This was such an interesting
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Jade Hindman. Thanks for tuning in to Midday Edition. Be sure to have a great day on purpose, everyone.
San Diego County is known for being one of America's most expensive regions. Locals are feeling the squeeze and looking for solutions. KPBS's new series, Price of San Diego, delves into the rising cost of groceries, childcare, car insurance, and even our beloved California burrito. You won't want to miss this ongoing series live now at kpbs.org/Price of San Diego.